just wanted to point out that we were going to do a full edition of this week's episode, complete with news and what we've been playing, but because of a computer crash, we have lost the visual recording of it. We have enough time to do another recording, but this time we'll be focusing mainly on the discussion involving Phil Spencer, Redfall, and the CMA deal. So please enjoy this week's podcast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Xbox the Box and Xbox podcast. My name is Potato, and I'm with my good friend Alice. We've had some technical issues. We just recorded for 2 hours, and it's all got up in smoke.
Well, correction. It's actually 1.5 hours. And what happened is that, first of all, I am Alice. Pronouns are she, they. What happens is we have been going into this podcast and we have been talking about the games we've played. We've been talking about the Minecraft Legends co-op we done last night, and we've been playing it on Legendary. So we just did a very clever thing where we just like going around the map, collecting resources to like reinforce the bases before we can like have the piglins in. So it's very clever. As you said, I'm like really clever. And we went through some like news, like we have an ESB rating that says like, oh, the Starfield is likely to have some suggestive themes in it, and that's ridiculous. And also the Hi-Fi Rush received the patch that somehow like modified the cushion that Charlie rests in, so he like gets into a more of a pillow. So this is kind of a bit ridiculous.
So yeah, we're seeing a lot of pillow talk, and Starfield, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I'm sold. It's going to have lots of sex and drugs in it, so I'm totally down for that. That sounds like my game of the year already. But yeah, we are really disappointed that we've lost that file. We do apologise. Like Xbox, we've messed up.
Well,
this is the Redfall this is our Redfall of podcast episodes.
Allow me to explain, please, because I'm just a little bit fairly bit depressed and frustrated. But what happened is I was overconfident with the settings. That the settings allowed me to record a move, and I have to make sure that if it doesn't like crash, then I can still keep it. Otherwise, I lose it. And it has a file there, but I couldn't play it, so I had to get rid of it. So we lost about 1.5 hours. So I made some changes to settings, like sticking to the fragmented move or split it by recording, so we can reduce these things happening again. But this is something to do with the issue with the M1 Mac Mini, which, touch wood, hopefully it doesn't happen too often, but we just have to make sure we have precautions in case we deal with this every time. But I mean, we're lost recordings while we're doing the podcast or even the videos for YouTube, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not having a go at you or anything. I'm just trying to lighten the mood.
I know you're not.
It's not pleasant, but it does happen with podcasts. And I know that there's lots of people who've lost their podcasts throughout the years. This is the first time we've had any issues like this, really, and it took us 51 episodes, so that's something.
I think
we apologise for losing it.
I think this is considered like Area 51, though.
Yeah, we've jinxed it. But yeah, we apologise for losing the footage, but it's sometimes can't be helped, and we do apologise. But we're still here to do a podcast. It's going to be a bit shorter this week. We're just going to do our topic of the show. As we said, we did discuss the news and all that in our previous recording, but we haven't got the time to record another 2 hours or another hour and a half. So we're just going to literally just jump straight into this Phil Spencer interview, which is our topic of the show.
And the good news is I don't have so much to edit with this one, but I'm definitely like taking some making some changes to make sure that we're not like up like every time. Well, sorry for the mentioning that, but I think I'll just probably cut that out. But anyway,
that's fine. I'm joking.
But anyway, hopefully this time we will only cut the recordings in like fragments, just in case we just run into the problems again. But anyway, top of the week is Phil Spencer. Care to explain what happened?
Do you want me to explain what happened? Or...
No, what
Phil
happened
Spencer
is
was all kind of funny doing an interview.
Yes, he's been on the podcast, Not Kind of Funny Games, recently, as he came in as a guest, and he's been talking about the issues with, how do I put, like the Redfall failure, and he was really disappointed about it. And he also talked about the CMA decision and how much he has been affected by it, as well as some other things. So to begin with, we begin with the CMA, where he's disappointed about it, and then he went on to say that the Activision Blizzard deal is not a strategy; it's more of a accelerant, which means he's not like trying to put all the eggs in one basket, but it's something that helps boost like Microsoft.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, so I get it, because like obviously Bethesda and their first party before Bethesda, so you got Obsidian, even without Activision and without Blizzard and all, without King, there's still Xbox has still got plenty of games in development. So it's not like this is the be all and end all. It is a big deal, though. Obviously, if it does get blocked, it's going to completely derail their momentum a bit. But we should, even with Activision and now not going through, we should still be getting games on a regular basis. Hopefully, fingers crossed. So I get what he's saying for sure. Maybe they're still going to keep excuse me. Maybe they're still going to be going after the mobile business, which they said that's what their main reason for getting Activision was to get the King part and like move into mobile. Maybe that's something they're still going to process, even if they don't have King, and maybe they'll start making more Microsoft mobile games, which I'm not interested in because I'm not a huge mobile gamer, but that is something they are interested in moving into for sure. What do you think?
I think it's definitely the case that I think when it comes to like Microsoft, I mean, they already bought out other companies like cloud streaming companies. They did some issues. Well, I mean, bought some like well, I don't know, because you were saying they were planning to get Sega and they with Atlas. So I mean, that's one way. But as you're saying in the last edition, well, I mean, first attempt of the podcast, you said that it's Phil Spencer's likely to be looking at trying to deal with the CMA decision at the moment. And so far, that the Activision has already hired a top lawyer, which is the lawyer for, I think it's a Lord Panic or some sort, who's been like helps out with Queen Elizabeth II and Boris Johnson, which means they're just brought over to like try to sort out with this case. So Phil's really hoping to work with Microsoft and Activision to appeal against this decision, and I just hope like it kind of like gives the Xbox opportunity to be on systems, and somehow it's just like otherwise it's just going to mean like less choices for gamers in the UK, and it's just like pretty a bad thing. So it's just a bit of a shame.
Yeah. What are you doing, dog? The dog's decided she wants to get involved again. Calm down. Right. Anyway.
Sit down.
Sit down. She's old. Yeah. All right, calm down. You ruined my green screen. Thanks for that. Anyway. Go on, I'll say it now. Yeah. So obviously the CMA thing is a big problem. They need to get this sorted. I'm hoping that they will be able to sort it out. I mean, worst case scenario would probably be the Xbox gets Call of Duty, puts it on every console in the world apart from the UK Game Pass. I feel like that might be the worst case scenario, is that they literally just go, oh well, never mind. America, Japan, Canada, Australia, all that, you get Call of Duty, but Britain's not going to get it because they're being stubborn. And I can see that happening, which would be really unfortunate. And it would suck because we're British, and we'd be the ones missing out.
He's pretty depressed about it, and he's not really pleased about like how it turned out.
No.
But he hasn't got a lot to say on it, and doesn't really see it's like incredibly important to do with the Activision. But I think, to be honest, it's just like, I mean, it's just been very difficult. Like, he doesn't want to like square up with the competitors. He's been like trying to like be able to increase more opportunities, and yet the the legal side of things is just like they think as if it's just going to make a huge monopoly. And it just seems there was a lot of influence by Sony to say that, oh, they're just going to take away Call of Duty and all this stuff. And to be honest, it's just ridiculous in my
It doesn't
opinion.
make any sense. I mean, I've said this before. I've said this in one of the previous recording. It's like, it just seems ridiculous to me. And they're basically, their main thing the CMA are cracking down on is the fact that Xbox will have a foothold in the cloud gaming business. I mean, there was OnLive, they tried it before, and then there was Gaikai, and there was Google Stadia. I mean, it's not like they're the first people to try cloud streaming gaming. They're just the first ones to actually have any kind of success in it. And it's like, it's still a emerging market. It's still a market that's like not really developed yet. And I feel like cutting it off at the source is a bad thing. Like, Xbox is getting it to the stage where it actually is a feasible thing, and you're stopping them. It doesn't make sense to me. It's baffling. I don't get it. And as you were saying about PlayStation, I feel like if PlayStation were buying Activision and they wanted to keep Call of Duty exclusive, I don't think we would have this issue at all. I think it would have just been done by now. If it was the other way around, it's weird. Just because Microsoft is like a multi-trillion-dollar company, they can't get any deals put through because they got too much money. It doesn't make any sense. It's weird.
Yeah, it is weird. But I think it's just like a PlayStation. Like, it seems as if like it full of themselves. And in PS We Trust, they recently did a podcast, and they've been saying about, I don't know. I mean, they're more critical about it than just like trying to rub it in Microsoft's face. But I think, it's just like they seem to be more critical with Phil Spencer. But I don't know. I think that's something to do with Redfall more. But I think, to me, I mean, it is really frustrating. The deal should have gone through, but I think it just falls down to either that Microsoft will, I mean, it all hinges down on the appeal that if they were to go through, CMA is like in trouble and somehow not be able to get things right, or it's just going to be like, it's going to mean we're not going to get a lot of what other gamers are getting in other countries, and we might not get a lot of cloud gaming to do with the UK. We don't have that, or some sort like that. And that's despite that Microsoft was already bought, did a partnership with a couple of cloud gaming companies, including like GeForce. And it's just kind of a bit ridiculous in my, I mean, it's just so difficult. And I just don't think that it's hard, really. But
it doesn't make any sense, the stuff that they're saying. They said like they'll keep Call of Duty available on any cloud streaming service that wants it. So I don't understand what the issue is. It's baffling to me. I don't get it. It's weird. It's very strange. Like, basically, for months, we've been talking about this, and it's just all they've ever said is Call of Duty is too big. Call of Duty is the biggest thing ever. You can't have Call of Duty exclusive, blah, blah, blah. Call of Duty this, Call of Duty that, Call of Duty this, Call of Duty that. And then the CMA decision, cloud gaming's bad. It's like, wait, what? You didn't even mention cloud gaming. It's the first time you mentioned cloud gaming. What do you mean? You were talking about Call of Duty last week. What's this? Like a new excuse to block the deal? It's mad. I don't understand it. It's weird. I don't get it. I still don't get it. And I think hopefully they'll get this sorted. And if they don't, they need to start playing dirty and start money hatting and buying exclusives, buying third-party exclusives like PlayStation does. That's what they're going to have to do to compete, honestly.
I keep
saying it, but get Sega. For God's sake, get Sega. It just makes so much sense.
I think it's a bit ridiculous anyway, because like while the Microsoft is being hounded because of this deal, PlayStation is like having more exclusives and getting more Square Enix on their systems. And it just seems like as if they're getting exclusives. So why don't they just like be criticized for that? I think this is some like bias, hypocrisy and bias going on. And I know we've been like going on about it, but I think there literally hasn't been a lot from like Phil and has been saying about it. So, but at the end of the day, he's looking to like trying to get this decision appealed, and he hopes it will be sorted out. But even so, it could take months. even next year before we get to see about this decision. But until then, we're not going to see anything from Activision, and we would be expected to spend on like full price for like the Labo or Call of Duty, so it kind of sucks. Anyway, the biggest part of this podcast where Phil Spencer is a guest is talking about what is known as Redfall. Redfall, you said that in the last take for the podcast that it's been gaining traction in sales, right?
Unfortunately, yeah. So I mean, I said this in the recording previously. The Redfall is the lowest rated game on Steam by Bethesda ever, lower than Fallout 76, lower than Wolfenstein the New Blood, lower than their Fallout subscription service, which is terrible. It's the lowest Bethesda game ever, but it's selling quite well, I believe. It's doing fairly well, which is really weird considering it's hot trash. I mean, I want to like this game. I want it to be good, but it's not good. I've played it for a good couple of hours. I was saying this in the previous recording. It's like, I played it for a couple of hours. I was just literally running up to every enemy I saw, just shooting them point blank. Not because they don't shoot back. They're not very. They're like the AI is like dead. It's non-responsive and like they're idiots. It makes no sense. It's like the game is broken at this point, and it's selling well though.
That's
people
good.
Want to play it.
That's really weird. That's really good because I think I'm not intending to play it anyway because I just don't think it will turn out really well. And honestly, at this rate, I know it's really nice to know that there's sales happening with it. So maybe things could change. Like it could get bug fixes and everything. But as for the extra content, like you were saying that it will be like Borderlands where it could have more content going in, but I think it just depends because at the moment it's been given a very cold reception of what's happening. So
I mean, I was saying like I said again, we keep referring to the previous recording, like you guys are gonna be able to hear it, so I apologize for that. But I was saying in the previous recording that the AAA space seems to be quite. It seems very difficult for games to come out in good quality these days. Like you had Cyberpunk, you had Forspoken, like even Star Wars Survivor that came out last week has got bugs in it. It seems to be very difficult for games to come out AAA high polish without many bugs. And Xbox seem to do this thing now where they'll have like stuff like Sea of Thieves or State of Decay or Grounded or like live service type games that come out broken and then they leave, and then like 2 or 3 years later they'll be fixed. So I mean, like I'm wondering if like in 2025 if we'll be going, that Redfall, that's actually kind of fun now. It actually works. It's like great. It's really like they shouldn't release games broken though. I don't believe in that, but I feel like they're not. I don't know if they're going to abandon this or not because it's not technically a live service, but it feels like a live service. It looks like a live service and has a lot of live service aspects. Like it feels very Destiny and Borderlands, like you said. So I could see it being, I see it being updated. I see them fixing a lot of these bugs.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I feel like they should just let it die and work on to the next thing, to be perfectly honest. But I can see them working on it to fixing it personally.
On the subject of Phil Spencer, I only got the notes because in the last recording I got the quotes, but then I just got rid of them. So I had to stick to the notes. But I think it's what empathizes with what he's saying, that he found this more disappointing, that he's been more affected by disappointing the community and dealing with the trust of the games than like this hitting Spencer. He just feels as if like because he released the game out and people are not liking it, it just kind of like feels as if it's didn't go well with them, and it just means they don't really have a lot of trust. Like as I was saying, is that it takes a lot of risks with Hollywood, and he even went in to say like, well, the Hollywood sticks to the generic ideas and don't go with like original titles. Scarn is saying that it takes like a huge risk there with original IP with Redfall. Like he allowed like Hi-Fi Rush to happen without sticking to Evil Within 3. He allowed Where to do Sea of Thieves, and he allows for like creative ideas, but these would take risks, which is why he thinks that well, it's just for this reason with the Redfall that he takes full responsibility for it. And I was saying like it when someone like a leader takes full responsibility, it's a very leadership thing to do and take responsibility for that. But it also like gives them like a lot of responsibility of trouble. And I think it's just going to mean that Phil is likely to be given a huge impact, and therefore he's not going to be trusted a lot. In fact, he's been like really defeatist. The fact he's not looking to stick to competition, but he's sticking to more creative results of the projects, which leads into this thing that he focuses on the creative aspects of the games rather than like trying to rush them out, and he just wants to make sure that the stuff is coming out to developers. Do you think that would be the case?
Yeah, so I get what he was saying. It's like he was saying that, do we want to just basically make them like make Arcane make like 6 or 7 Dishonored games and just keep it, that's all they can make, or like Evil and all like Tango just make Evil Within games constantly because that's what they make. I get it. Like I feel like without experimentation, we wouldn't have had a Hi-Fi Rush, we wouldn't have Grounded, we wouldn't have some of these fantastic games on Xbox. I think it's a good thing to experiment. Like I'm not a massive fan of Horizon Zero Dawn or like Forbidden West or whatever it is on PlayStation, but Guerrilla made Killzone and they moved on to that, and that's become one of PlayStation's biggest franchise. I think it is fair to let companies develop and try different things. Unfortunately, Redfall was a failure, a massive failure for Xbox, but I still don't think that should discourage us from trying new things and trying different genres and trying different games. I just feel like maybe they needed more support, more finance, more backing. I don't know. I don't know what they needed. They needed something. It's obviously a blunder in there. As you said, he's taken all of the responsibility himself, which is noble, but I don't think it's all Phil's fault. I think it's a bit simplistic just to blame it on Phil, because Phil Spencer's the boss. It's his fault this game sucks. It's like, no, there must be something that's happened along the way. I don't know whose fault it is, but I don't think it's Phil's fault. I don't think it's just Phil's fault anyway. I think there's a lot of people's fault at this. And I did say this in the previous recording. I believe in Phil Spencer. I think he's great. When Xbox One was launching, Xbox didn't have many studios. We had about 3 to 5 studios, and it looked like Xbox was going to close down. And Phil Spencer encouraged Satya Nadella to invest in Xbox. And over the last 5-6 years, we've gone from 4 or 5 studios to 21 studios with Bethesda. And then after we get Activision through, if we hopefully do get Activision through, that'll be about 40 studios. So going from 3 or 4 studios to 40 odd studios, I could see where you would like stuff like Redfall might fall through the cracks. Well, I do think that we're still in a teething period, and I feel like hopefully give it another 4 or 5 years, and we'll hopefully have all this kinks and stuff worked out, and it'll all be running smoothly, I hope.
Well, actually, sorry, I hate to butt in, but
go ahead.
He kind of initially thought as if to do with the third-party studio, he kind of treats it like that, but he realizes that he could have asked for more communication, he could have asked for more transparency with it, allowing more communication. And he also realizes that he needs to allow Microsoft to tap into more of the internal resources to help them out, treat the Arcane like a first-party studio. And he also said about like Rare, and there's also Obsidian, who might help out with things like the Unreal Engine, for instance. And it's something that he didn't get enough of when it comes to delivering Redfall. So I feel that he could have like done better with the communication side of things. And
for sure,
I
also feel like with Phil Spencer, it was all like just in general Xbox. I feel like they were like going, Arcane, they've never made a bad game. They made Dishonored, they made Prey and all that. Let's just leave them to it. I'm sure they know what they're doing. I feel like that's almost like what happened. Just like they kind of just were a bit more hands off with them. They just trusted them to make a good game, and then obviously they didn't hit the quality bar that they're known for, unfortunately. And yeah, I feel like it's going to be very tricky for Xbox. It's like, what companies do they want to be really hands on with, and what companies do they want to be hands off with? Because you've seen it work in both ways. Like, I feel like they're not being very hands on with Hi-Fi Rush. They turned out fantastic, but then you'll get games like Redfall where it's complete garbage. So like, it's like, how hands on do they want to be? How controlling do they want to be? It's very difficult to judge this because they've got so much. As I said, they've gone from 5 to 40 odd companies within like a 10-year period. It must be very difficult to adjust. And obviously this is like PlayStation and Nintendo have kind of grown gradually, whereas Xbox kind of exploded overnight from like small company to a massive company, and I feel like they still have some learning to do, unfortunately, and I'm hoping that they will eventually get their grips on everything and get it sorted. Fingers crossed.
So, but I think it's worth mentioning that Phil Spencer, especially he allows the projects to happen with a lot of creative vision. I think he has given a lot of emphasis on that without giving too much about the technical reliability. He doesn't look into review scores. He hopes that the games will actually deliver what is delivers the creative goals. But I think the trouble is just somehow getting overly confident with the technical aspects of it. Sure. And I think for this reason it just runs into issues. He says that Microsoft is open to delaying games if they have a lot of bugs. Do you feel this is something that Microsoft could be up to that if they were to be notified of how bad a Redfall is going to turn out?
I mean, I feel like I've said this before. It's just I feel like they should have just delayed it at this point. They've delayed stuff in the past. They delayed Halo out of the launch window, for God's sake. We didn't have a launch game because they delayed Halo for a year. And they've already delayed Redfall and Starfield by a year. So I don't understand why you wouldn't delay it again because it's broken. And then I was saying this to you earlier. It's like, if we have Age of Empires 2, Hi-Fi Rush, Minecraft Legends, Starfield, and Forza, that's still 5 big exclusives this year. Do we need Redfall? Do we need a broken mess like Redfall in the middle of that? I mean, if it doesn't look like it's going to be good enough quality, I feel like we should have given it another year or two to develop.
I agree.
I don't think we needed it. Really.
Well,
unfortunately.
Redfall is, let's say, I'm not 100% excited about it, and I don't think everyone is that excited either. Because when it comes to Redfall, I just don't think people are picking a lot up from the trailers, and yet it's been hyped. Only it just came out and it didn't deliver. But to me, I think Redfall could have came out in October this year, just to play safe and give more time for the developers to work on bugs. But because they have released it already, people have already saw how bad it is, and because of that, it really damaged Microsoft's reputation, and is something that is going to be a huge lesson to Phil Spencer, which he's really disappointed how it turned out, but he aims to make sure that hoping that he will be taking more care and dealing with Arcane in this aspect and making sure it does, because Redfall at the moment it is pretty much the first failed game from Arcane when they had a good track record of all those successful games. One of the developers, one of the artists, I don't know if her name is Susie, but she's really upset by the mean-spirited people who are digging into this game and even attacking the developers. And I mean, others are saying that you shouldn't really be slagging into the developers and hurting them, because I don't think this is actually fair when they have worked hard on the game, just like what I said with 343. Speaking of 343, they brought out Halo Infinite to be a bit of a mess, and 343 had issues, and they even had layoffs and changing of managers. But a few developers have actually blamed Microsoft for not handling Halo Infinite. And it just leads to this thing that Phil Spencer went into this Animal Crossing chat and he has to take time off. And then he has to announce on the spot that Halo Infinite has been delayed until like 2021. And it's just kind of a bit ridiculous.
I was going to mention that as well. Yeah, like because he was kind of funny doing this interview. So they prearranged this interview a week ago or before all this news came out, and so they have an interview with Gary Whitta, and he also did the Animal Crossing thing, and that was booked in advance, and then that was ended up going to shit as well. So basically, Gary Whitta stopped booking interviews with Phil because every time you do it, bad things happen. You're a jinx. You're a jinx, Gary Whitta. Whenever you have an interview with Phil Spencer, everything goes wrong.
Yeah.
I'm only kidding, but
so anyway, we've got to move on. And the good news is the OBS has already saved first 30 minutes of our talk. So that one's secured. And also, it's turning out to be a long episode, and that is exactly what we hope for. Like last time, we're going to have a huge episode, but now it's just like, we're going into this serious talk because I feel as if I need to have more talk with it. And also, there's probably outside still, so whatever. But the last part of it is he gets grilled on questions, and people are being sympathetic towards him. Like, I think it was Jeff or some sort. But
I like Phil. I trust Phil. I had a couple of questions for you as well. Like I was curious what you thought. So I mean, do you think?
I think we do the questions once we go through the last bit of notes because
all right. Go on. Sorry.
He notices there's some different expectations when it comes to studios becoming first party, and that's been talked about. Mm-hmm. And he also said about he's hoping to use internal resources to help them out. However, what's really huge that apart from that he believes is more creative diversive, and that's good because we've seen the likes of like Hi-Fi Rush and etc. He's looking to get things more on console and try to deliver it to players without having to rely on PC, and I think that's good. But at the moment, Redfall did not perform well on the Xbox consoles, and instead it performs better on the PC. That is if you have to stick to the higher settings. And it just leads to thinking like the problem is that if you can get it one well on PC, it's not likely to do well on console. And I think this is something that Redfall really needs to like focus on if they were to deliver the game, because at the moment, playing on the Xbox is not a great experience. The PC, however, is better, but it's not always that reliable.
No, I mean, that's what they were saying is like Xbox is still the primary, their main audience, the audience they want to cater for the most. They do focus on Xbox over PC and streaming. I mean, they want to improve the streaming and they want to improve their PC base, but the Xbox is the number one place to be when it comes to Microsoft gaming. There was the other quote I mentioned earlier, which you did mention. The Xbox was saying that they lost the worst generation they could have lost with the Xbox One generation and the PS4 generation because of digital libraries, and they're saying that there's no way they can compete with PlayStation and Nintendo even if they have the best exclusives, which I think is wrong personally. But what do you think?
To me, I think on this subject that the digital library is a huge shift. To begin with, Xbox and PlayStation started with physical copies, so it's like every other company before 2010. And Xbox 360 came out and didn't have the digital library in mind. But when the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 came out, that's when there's more emphasis on like digital library. And I feel this is something that is already been shifted over. And I also think as if this is something that Microsoft succeeded on because they got a Game Pass that offers a very good deal without having to rely on streaming. They want to like offer a digital library of games to download for a subscription fee. And I think this is definitely one of the things that Microsoft should be incredibly proud of.
Oh, for sure. I agree with that completely. Like I was going to say that myself. It's like if people have a PlayStation library of games, But then they go, oh, well, for 10 quid a month, I have the entirety of the Xbox's first party collection of every first party game that's ever been released on Xbox, plus a load of EA games and all these indie games as well. And it's like only £10 a month. Like you're building up a library right there, just with Game Pass, as you said. I think it's important. And what you were saying about killer apps not mattering, like if Starfield, he said if Starfield's an 11 out of 10, he doesn't see PlayStation people selling their PlayStation to buy Xboxes. I disagree.
Yes.
Because I own all the consoles. I play Xbox every day, but I bought a PlayStation just for Spider-Man and just for God of War. Like literally, those are the only reasons I own a PlayStation. If they didn't have God of War or Spider-Man, I would never have bought one. And it's like the Switch, I bought it for Breath of the Wild, and I'll be getting it for Tears of the Kingdom as well. So I feel like killer apps are still really important. I think the Xbox had the ultimate killer app with their first console with Halo Combat Evolved. If it wasn't for Halo Combat Evolved, Xbox wouldn't even be around. Like it was the reason Xbox was successful in the first place. So I don't get the whole having a killer app's not going to save the system. I think Starfield really could be that game that saves the system, hopefully. It could be a 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10 that drives people to the system. And I'm hoping that's what happens. Fingers crossed.
Well, to me, referring to the PS3 Trust guys who recently released a podcast and talked about this, they said that the Xbox 360 was huge because of the games. Then when they moved over to the Xbox One, and then eventually they didn't see a lot with it. And this then comes to their argument saying Xbox Series X and S does not have any games. And I just feel that is not really a good argument because the thing is, it just seems as if Redfall is when Microsoft put all the eggs in one basket with it. But then that's not really the case because they also got games lined up. Starfield is a much bigger release, and they should not really be screwing it up. Also, as Phil has mentioned on the podcast, he also said about there's also Hellblade 2, there's also Avowed, and there's a showcase coming up in early June where there's going to reveal more titles there. And I think this is something that Microsoft is going to deliver. I just feel in the moment that if they were to bring out their own games, and if one of them sucks, then it kind of ruins the entire image of Microsoft. And I just feel as if people are using that as ammunition for them to attack Microsoft, and just goes on to hurt them. And it's just really ridiculous.
I feel like the Xbox has no games thing is so old-fashioned, out of date, and incorrect. I was saying this in the previous recording. Again, I keep saying that. I'm sorry. But I think the problem with Xbox is not the fact that they haven't got games. It's that they don't market their games properly. They don't I'm hoping that when Starfield comes out, we're going to see adverts everywhere, but I have a feeling that we won't. Like billboards and down the subway tunnels and all over the TV. Starfield, the biggest game ever, Skyrim in space, and all that stuff. I'm hoping we get that, but we never seem to do that with Xbox. PlayStation, you see PlayStation adverts everywhere, and Nintendo adverts. But I mean, at least in the UK, I'm not sure where it's like the rest of the world, but I feel like the marketing on Xbox needs work for sure. And Xbox does have games. Xbox has loads of games. As this year, we got Hi-Fi Rush, Minecraft Legends, Age of Empires 2 already, and then we're getting Starfield and we're getting Forza. And then last year, even though it was a dead year, we had Grounded, we had Pentiment, we had other stuff as well, and then we've had Halo, we've had Flight Simulator. There's so many great games on Xbox, and they are great exclusives. So I think the Xbox has no games thing is kind of stupid and outdated, and I'm not factually incorrect. But yeah, I think they're not very good at marketing their games, unfortunately, is what the main issue is.
I would need to butt in to say that they did actually spend money on adverts to promote the Activision deal around London Underground and all stuff.
That's true.
So
that is true.
I think it just seems as if Microsoft really wants to emphasize the deal's good over fears that UK might be backing it off. But I think you're all right to say that. I think it's important to deal with the marketing side of things. at the moment. It just seems as if they're confident enough that it's something that is more of a niche when they should be like sending those games. But then Phil has said that he's not looking to compete with other companies. He believes in the creative results of all the games and rely on like passion projects. And it's just something tells me that like he's been like really defeatist and he would rather like tries to play like getting more withdrawn into like trying to get the Xbox thing. And it's just what kind of makes me feel like concerned as if like is he actually like going to like not taking care of like how to deal with those things? I know he's been like trying to get all those creative IPs out and there's some hits and misses there, but I just feel that he may not have a lot of good perception over like how the game has performed technically, and something that he needs to work in rather than just saying, oh, this one is really creative enough and I think this is going to bring good ideas, just bring it out, instead of like saying if it's going to perform quite well. I mean, no one's perfect enough to spot every bug out, but when the Redfall is like doesn't turn out to be like that reliable, and instead I don't know who's responsible to showing what Redfall is supposed to look like, then I just feel it's just turns out to be more of a communication issue and just ends up releasing it only to like be like such a huge heavy damage towards not only Microsoft but also Arcane. It's not great. But it's also a matter of knowing like, is Microsoft like trying to push them out? Not according to Phil Spencer, because he said that he's not willing to push the games out. He would rather make sure that it has enough half of a creative vision and not make sure it doesn't have any lack of a coherency to do with it.
What I was also going to say is that, you know, with Redfall, it comes out, it's like a 4 out of 10. It's not very good. It's not getting very good reviews. But what was the last first-party Xbox game that really didn't have a good, like, grade? Yeah, last year was a bit quiet, but Pentiment got 10 out of 10. Grounded was, like, in, like, the high 10, like, high 8s and 9s. You know, Flight Simulator were getting 10 out of 10s. Halo Infinite, even though people slag off Halo Infinite now, it was getting 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10s when it came out. And the single player is fun, the multiplayer is fun. Psychonauts was good. I mean, I can't remember. This is like seems like the first real bad first party game from Xbox in a long time. I feel like they have got their consistency down a bit better than they used to, for sure. I don't remember the last really bad first party game from Xbox before Redfall, to be perfectly honest. Maybe I'm wrong, someone will tell me in the comments like, this game just came out and it was rubbish. But as far as I remember, I think this is the first big failure they've had in about 3 or 4 years, if you don't count, obviously, all the delays and stuff. But I feel like they do try and have a quality bar. I think somehow Redfall kind of slipped the net. I don't know. I don't know how they released it like that.
I think it's just all eyes on Phil Spencer, especially he's taking responsibility for this. Like, now it's just like the case of like how Microsoft's going to deal with all of it. And now people are just afraid to know whether the same would happen with Starfield or even that. And Starfield is actually a big question because when Skyrim came out, it had like glitches of crests. And also the Starfield is a huge, ambitious thing, which means like it's already been delayed by 1 year, and now it's just like Starfield is going to have a more ambitious idea. So, like, I just hope they don't screw it up. But eventually, it's still going to be one of those games that's likely to be in more of a need of an unofficial patch mod than like trying to expect everything to be perfect the first time. So
I was gonna say that. So obviously Bethesda is known as like Bugfester. Every big first person shooter, every Elder Scrolls, every Fallout have been very popular, but they also have been very buggy at launch. So that is worrying. We're hoping that this game comes out without any bugs. Fingers crossed that's the case, or very little bugs. Fingers crossed. I'm hoping that's true. I was going to ask you this earlier, and then you said, like, well, good. I was going to say, do you think that Starfield is a make or break for Xbox? Do you think if this fails, this is going to be catastrophic? Or do you think if this is a success, it might bring Xbox back up again? Do you think it is like that big of a game? Is this the biggest game in Xbox history, possibly?
It's definitely a make or break, but I think that would be more of an understatement considering there might be some other titles. Like Hi-Fi Rush is already turning out to be the game of the year, but that's without knowing how much the Starfield is going to turn out. So, but I would say that they already did a lot of delays last year. There's literally no games for Xbox during Christmas. Which means if we're going to go through the same thing, we're not going to get any good quality titles for Xbox, whether they're out or they came out really bad as Redfall. Then it just means that Microsoft is likely to lose a lot of grip over this and may not like succeed, because at the moment, I think the trouble is with PlayStation is that I think there was already a much bigger loyal fan base. And yet they seem to be like not offering much for Japanese gamers, especially when they move headquarters from Japan over to America. And you also have Jim Ryan, who's more of a business-minded individual. And I don't think there's a lot of like what to expect of a PlayStation apart from like Final Fantasy and there's few things. Like there's of course like Forspoken, and it's like turned out to be such a heavy disappointment. And yet, it's just like they're now treating Redfall as if it's the next worst thing. And I think it's just like there's already some bias, which means Microsoft is always going to be like an underdog compared to like PlayStation, which is ridiculous. But
I mean, we said, I was saying this to you earlier, is that there's already 5 games announced for this year for Xbox. PlayStation have literally nothing. It's Final Fantasy, and then we might get Spider-Man at the end of the year. They haven't announced anything. So the fact that people are saying Xbox has no games when PlayStation literally have announced nothing for 2023 is hilarious to me. Yeah, I mean, they had, and the VR was a flop. You know, the PlayStation are not infallible. They can make mistakes. They can fail. So, you know, they're not perfect as much as people might say they are. My dog decided to wake up and distract me.
Sit down.
Sit down.
Anyway,
give us more.
Now, you said you have questions for me. So,
I mean, that was the question I was going to ask you, was about Starfield. So that was the one I asked you. But yeah, I'm really hoping Starfield's going to be good. That's basically my only hope. That now I'm really worried if that fails, I'm worried for Xbox's future. I think this might be the most important video game in Xbox history, even more important than Halo. I think this might be the one that this might, you know, determine the future of Xbox as a company. And also, I was going to mention as well, you said there's nothing announced for Christmas. I mean, that was the case last year and the year before as well. Like, they announced everything, and like, we're going to have the E3 press conference in June. They'll probably announce what game's coming out in December and June, I imagine.
Correction, that's the Xbox showcase, because remember that the E3's dead? Therefore, this year, Xbox. There's only going to be an Xbox showcase. There will be like Starfield as well as Hellblade 2 and Avowed. But there's also going to be things like other games too. So it's just a little hoping that things will turn out well. And there's also some hope that Silksong will come out before the end of this year. But I think, to be honest, it's just going to be extremely challenging. So
I do think we're going to get one more big game before the end of the year. I don't know what it's going to be, but I think it might be either Hellblade or it might be Gears of War Collection, maybe. I'm not sure. I think we probably get one more big game before the end of the year, though.
Yeah.
Or maybe the Fallout 4 remaster might be like their big game at the end of the year. I don't know, because that's been rumored to be coming out as well. They're going to be not remastering it, just like you know they had the Skyrim special edition with all the extra mods and stuff that came out 2 years ago. I think it's going to be like the same thing with that. With Fallout 4, it's going to be like all the extra add-ons and stuff and 4K 60 frames and all that stuff. So that might be their big thing for Christmas. I don't know. I'm rambling. Sorry, I got
Anyway,
off subject.
that's okay. But now we're only all like 50 minutes into this, so this is turning into a proper episode, but it could well be the shortest podcast episode. So
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the last question, and that is no cue, because already like screwed it up, and it's like, oh well, I might as well make this a whole discussion episode. But in the PS We Trust, this podcast, they have been talking about dealing with the question of what they feel as if Phil Spencer should have done or what he should do just to like try and improve Xbox better. So if you're in this booth and you're being told that if there's anything you say that might, what you could say to Phil, what you can like deal with this situation or what you can do better or what you can do to like improve Xbox, what would you say in this regard?
Well, I think you know the answer because I say it every week. I'm going to let you guess what I'm going to say.
Game Pass.
No, I was going to say Sega. Buy Sega. I mean, that's always my answer for everything. You want to get in the Japanese market, you want to get JRPGs, you buy Sega. It makes the most sense in the world. It's just perfect. It fits perfectly. Also, hire more people in higher up positions because obviously this is too much of a job for one person. And as much as I admire Phil Spencer, games, we can't have another Redfall situation. We need more people managing these development companies. As I said, he's gone from five different devs to having like 40 odd. So I feel like you need to have more people like looking over these companies personally. Bit more management. But yeah, buy Sega is always my go-to though, for sure, because I think that's the most logical. You get a nice back catalog for Game Pass. You get all the Sega games. You get Sonic. You get all the Yakuza and Persona games and all that. I've always said that's the best value for money is to get Sega. So that's always my go-to. Otherwise, as I said, work on your management. Hire some more people to manage. Maybe try and get someone who's an ex-PlayStation or an ex-Nintendo management, so they know how to manage all these companies. No, I know, but that seems to happen. Like someone who might have just retired or something. I don't know. Get Reggie in. Get Reggie Fils-Aimé in. I love Reggie.
Be a huge
My body is ready.
Yeah. Anyway,
but yeah, I feel like management is the issue a lot of the time, and I as much as I like Phil, I think he's just overwhelmed with the amount of people. I think maybe a couple more people in there, and buy Sega. That's always my go-to answers. Buy Sega.
Well, I would like to add that I think when I was like gonna say something about it, and then I just realised, yeah, maybe Phil needs some kind of henchman to go with him and act as different managers. Like there's a community manager, and I don't know if these have been emphasised enough, but it just seems as if it's all focused on Phil Spencer. And yeah, you could like have other people to act in those different aspects of like the Xbox community as well as Xbox development. And I think it's just like, maybe that's the one idea. I was going to bring out that Microsoft has laid off thousands of people, and that includes people from 343. And I feel this is kind of a bit of a disservice there. Like, if they're going to have a much bigger company, like if they're going to bring Activision in, and then it's just going to mean like there's going to be a lot more responsibility. And I just feel as if Phil Spencer would probably not have to like carry this whole world on his shoulders, and instead like carry someone else in who can deal other aspects of the company. Like he says about allowing for more communication and transparency between companies. Maybe like bring someone who can like deal with all the producers and even get them more involved. And even coming up with a strategy just to make sure that everyone is on the same page to dealing with the coherent delivery of the games. I mean, this is something that like it has to be taken seriously, and it should not really be like turn into a huge problem. So yeah,
I agree. I agree 100%. More people. We need to hire more people. Make Xbox great again.
Hmm.
No, I wish I didn't say that now. No, it's fine. It's fine. I was making a joke. But yeah, I really want Xbox to be successful because if we have three big companies doing well, it's good for everyone. I think, and we're Xbox fans, we want them to succeed. And I really hope I'm hoping Redfall is just a blip. I'm hoping Starfield's going to come out and it's going to be a 9 out of 10. And Forza's going to be a 9 out of 10. And we're going to have something really good coming out at the end of the year, like a Hellblade. And I'm hoping that this is just a trip. I'm hoping this is just a little bit of a date in confidence. I'm hoping that we can bounce back from this and become a great, I hope so. I hope this isn't like. I'm hoping that we're not just gonna have Starfield's gonna be awful and Forza's gonna be awful and the Xbox is just gonna go off a cliff. I'm hoping it's gonna go the other way. I'm hoping this is just a one-off. This is a freak one-off thing, and I'm hoping that going forward Xbox is gonna be better. That's all I'm gonna hope for, and I'm gonna try to be optimistic. Fingers crossed. I'm gonna be optimistic.
Yeah, I would also need to say that you're really positive about Phil, and I'm more like critical because the thing is like, I think it's not much to do with Phil. I think there's been stories of like Microsoft like screwing things up to do with like Microsoft has been criticized by 343 for not getting the project right. There's Microsoft being judged because of the Silksong's delay, and they haven't given a realistic time frame for the game to be released. Right. But I think the trouble is that Microsoft seems to be like having a lot of ambition and not like delivering it. And there already been like cases where the management hasn't been done well. But to be honest, I think there is a lot of like criticism towards Phil Spencer. Like he really cares. He wants to like allow some better ideas with Xbox, but at the same time, I just feel like he should like. I feel he's being more defeatist, and he doesn't seem to like get engaged with the competition so much. But maybe it's good because he allows for more ideas, and his for Hollywood view would mean that he really wants to get the fresh franchises out. But bear in mind, original Xboxes have like new franchises and then eventually go into sequels. Like Microsoft doesn't really want to go, well, Phil Spencer doesn't really want to go into like having to stick to the same trend, like sequels and everything. And that's something that's really good. But given the Redfall and the stuff like that, I think it's been exaggerated a lot. I have to admit, I think people are like dooming and glooming with this when it's not exactly fair. They're not making a lot of good points there, but I think at the same time is that I just don't know like whether we can like trust Microsoft to deliver something good, because to me, like the good thing about Xbox is the reason I go for the Xbox is that it would serve as an entertainment hub. Like I used to have PlayStation, but I'm still missing a bunch of stuff on there. And maybe move to Xbox, which I found good when it comes to Xbox Live, good when it comes to multimedia apps. It's good when it comes to like playing games, especially with the back catalog, which
Game Pass,
like the PS3 Trust guys, they really seem to take in the fact it goes for the whole back catalog because there isn't a lot of gamers going for it. But I still like go for the Xbox so that I can have as a system to play games, to watch movies or stuff like that.
For sure.
It's a really good system, but many gamers would expect to buy the game system so they can get up with the recent trend of games. And so far, they seem to be seeing way more reasons for them to stick with PlayStation 5 or Switch instead of Xbox, whereas Xbox is pretty much like allows for a larger catalog of games, and yet they are not seeing a lot of reasons why they should buy one right now or even for the games. Which is why I really do hope that when Starfield comes out, it will be much it will be a good game for people to buy on.
So.
But at the same time, they would have to buy a PC for it, especially in the mod support, even on Steam. So I feel this is quite a difficult situation for Microsoft at the moment. And that's definitely what I would feel. That's what's happening.
I agree with everything you just said, yeah. I think the Xbox is much better value for money than the PlayStation. I have a PlayStation. I never use it. I feel like if you are frugal or if you're good with money, I feel like getting an Xbox with Game Pass is the much better value for money concept. If you just like gaming and like playing lots of different things. If you just like to play walking simulators with grumpy dads, then get a PlayStation. But if you want to play like variety of stuff, like survival games and like RTSs and racing games and all sorts, I think Xbox is the place to be personally. But I'm an Xbox fan, I would say that. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it though for this podcast, right? I mean, are we going to wrap it up there, or is there anything else you want to?
Let's wrap it up because we're about to finish this at 1 hour, but now it's just going to be a couple of minutes past the 1 hour mark.
Yeah, exactly.
But so far,
we appreciate.
So far, I got the fragmented move. Hopefully, it works out fine. Touch wood, but it's always split in the file, so hopefully, it will turn out all right. But so far, I don't want to say too much, but yeah, it's still a very good episode, and we've already gone through what the biggest talking point of Xbox. And honestly, I'm a bit more judgmental towards it, unlike you, who just wishes for something more positive when you found all this to be depressing to do with the CMA and stuff like that.
It's very depressing. I feel like everything, like every Xbox podcast I've listened to this week has been Xbox is doomed. It's the end of the world. Xbox is screwed. It's all going. The sky is falling. Oh, everyone panic. I'm just like, it's not that bad. It's one game. It was a bad game, but we can move on. And as I said, I'm hoping that it was just a blip. And fingers crossed. I'm hoping Starfield's going to be a 9 or a 10, and so is Forza, and we're going to hopefully bounce back. That's what I'm hoping for. Fingers crossed.
Anyway, I suppose we have to wrap up. So thank you for watching, and take care.
Thanks, guys. And we really appreciate that you watched this episode, even though we completely messed up the original one. And hopefully next episode we'll be back to normal. So thank you guys for watching, and we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the X Marks the Box podcast. Follow us at X Marks Box on Twitter or X Marks the Box on YouTube. And follow us on all audio podcast services. Thanks for listening.